they also had what? Long lines with very few people. Meter reading was hugely costly. So they invented something called the turtle, which was a very simple yet elegant one-way provision of data from that meter, very slow latency. That meter back to the substation was collected. That's been in place for over 20 years. So the cooperatives, strangely as it may seem, were actually well ahead of the investor-owned community. Again, not a criticism of the investor-owned community, it's just their business model led to certain kinds of investments, the cooperative business model led to other kinds of investments, and that's one of the distinctions that you see. I think when we talk about smart grid, one of the things that I think we can do on a transfer of knowledge basis, that cooperatives through the Cooperative Research Network, which is the research arm of the trade association NRECA that I mentioned a little bit ago, has one of the demonstration projects funded through ERA. It involves 20 different distribution cooperatives that are deploying everything you could think about in technology on a demonstration basis in smarter grid. So those investments are being made now, the deployments are going into the field. Inside of about a year, we'll have pretty good data coming out about what technology is used. And think about it this way, many of the distribution entities in India have been relying on expertise that we've been bringing to them from our distribution cooperatives. So some of that engineering topology is going to be very similar to what the distribution cooperatives have in the United States. So we can take what we learned out of the smart grid demo of these 20 different cooperatives and probably transfer a huge percentage of that to the industry in India. A couple of other things. We're going through, in the United States, I think Matt and Matt both mentioned the need for demand response, the ability for that load to respond in a way that it is comparable to a supply option. We're going through a major rate study with our board right now, and one of our principal objectives is to develop what we call products and services. These are things like demand response, the old load management, if you will. But the objective is, if we can spend money with our distribution cooperative member, as opposed to spending money in the wholesale marketplace, that money stays at home. That's a good outcome. That money will fuel investment in the distribution system. That's a good outcome. So we really strive to do that. We're doing that through a very detailed rate study right now. Again, it's very different than what our friends at Excel go through in a rate study, where they basically can think about the system all the way from the bus bar at the generation station, clear to the meter, clear to the switch. We have to think about it up to our demarcation to our member, and then through our member system to their member consumers. It's a very difficult and complex situation. Doesn't mean that Excel doesn't face a lot of complexity, it's just different. Their business models are different. Again, they drive different practices, they drive different investments. A couple of things, I think Matt mentioned Butter Valley Rural Electric Association. They've got a great AMI deployment, 30,000 meters in the Fort Collins area north of here. We're also, through our board, we're making investments in smart grid pilots with different members. Butter Valley happens to be one of those. But we're looking at automation and control of a number of generator sets and motors inside of an ethanol plant, for example. We want to see the overall use of energy dampen, but then we also want to know how much of that residual energy can be sold back to us by that member system through a demand response initiative. So I think it's really important when you think about these things to look at the energy value chain and who we're talking about, whether it's a vertically integrated utility like our friends at Excel, or whether it's like us at the wholesale level with our retail partners who own and control us, so they're more than partners, they're our owners. But I just would kind of harken back to what I started with. I think there are a lot of things that we're doing in the cooperative world that have great applicability and transferability to what develops in India with the energy system. So be delighted to take any questions as we go forward. Thank you.